So Nkateko, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership.
Thank you for having me.
But before we go into leadership, can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Mamelodi. It's a township in the east of Pretoria.
Right.
And then when I was 9 years old, we moved to Garsfontein, which is a suburb also in the east of Pretoria. At that time, there was a lot that was going on in Mamelodi. It was not safe anymore, and also drugs were starting to be a big thing in the township. So my parents felt that it was best to move us away from there and then get us settled somewhere else. So my whole upbringing was in Pretoria.
And tell us, what was your dream career when you grew up?
I wanted to be a pharmacist or a physiotherapist because I had childhood asthma, and those are the people that I was surrounded with. The pharmacists were obviously prescribing, well, not prescribing, the doctors were prescribing my Singulair tablets and my asthma pumps and so on, and the pharmacists were giving those to me. And then I wanted to be a physiotherapist because of how they helped me with my asthma, those massages that would release the phlegm in my chest. So yeah, those were the two things that I wanted. And I even mentioned in my TEDx talk last year in November that those are the two careers that I thought I wanted to go into, not because I knew what they meant, but because I knew that those are the people that helped me, and I wanted to do the same for other people.
And tell us, who inspired you in your early days?
Wow. My parents, because I realized that everything that they did was for my sisters and I to have a better education. Every move, every time we had to move from one place to another, every time they changed jobs, it was not for themselves, but it was for us. It was because they wanted us to be in better schools. They wanted us to have a better future. So definitely my parents, because I did see other people as role models, but then the people in my home, because I saw them at home and I saw the sacrifices that they were making for me to have a better life, I would say that they inspired me. They made me want to work harder.
Now, Nkateko, today you have your own publishing company. You're a TEDx speaker.
Yeah.
You're World Economic Forum Global Shaper. And you're a Mandela Washington Fellow. So where did you start your career?
I started my career when I went to medical school. So immediately after high school, my dad told me to decide whether I wanted to start working immediately after high school. And I thought, what am I going to do? Because I mean, all I have is my matric, or if I was going to study further. And so that was now grade 11. And I decided I was definitely going to study further. Then I applied for medicine, and I knew that I was going to get in because I had been top learner in my grade for quite a few years up to that point. I didn't know the challenges that would come with going to medical school, but yeah, that's what I decided I would do, and that's where I started. I went to medical school, studied MBCHB medicine at the University of Pretoria, and that was a very interesting journey because halfway through medical school I realized that I have so many other passions and so many other interests. So I wanted to pursue those as well. And that's what I did. So my first poetry collection then came out in my 4th year of medical school. And then NSUKU Publishing Consultancy was then started in December of 2016, which was my 5th year of medical school. So I decided that I wasn't going to wait until I was done. I was going to pursue all of those interests simultaneously.
And today you spend most of your time in publishing, is right? Publishing and writing?
Yeah.
And can you tell us, NSUKU Publishing, what do you specialize in?
NSUKU Publishing Consultancy handles editing, proofreading, typesetting, layout, distribution. So everything that a client needs from the minute they have conceptualized their book up to the book now being in bookstores, or if they're self-distributing, we handle everything. So the name consultancy implies that we're consulting. That's how the business started out. Initially, people would come to me after I self-published my first book, and they would ask me, so how did you go about it? And I'd be offering that information to them. And then I thought, but this is valuable information that people are willing to pay for. So then I decided to then formalize it into a business. And then they started paying for those services, where they would come to me and say, I have a manuscript, how do I get it published? And then I would give them all that information for a consultation fee. And then I started having clients who would say, but I don't have the time to do all of this. So then with all the networks and all the contacts that I had established when I was self-publishing, I decided, let me do this for my clients, get them in touch with my printers and so on. And that's why NSUKU is now a publishing company where we handle everything. The editing of a book, typesetting and layout, translation if it needs to be translated, transcription if the person doesn't want to write but they would rather speak, and then we write for them. So everything that anyone could ever need, from the minute they've written a book to getting the book into stores, that's what we do.
Okay. And looking back over your career, what would you say was a major turning point?
The turning point for me was when I was still in medicine, when I got pneumonia during my pediatrics rotation. And I thought to myself, if this is something that's going to make me ill, then I have to rethink this. So that's where I started getting a bit disillusioned with medicine, because I thought my health is suffering, but I wasn't even allowed to take time off at that point. And I thought, my health is suffering, I'm not allowed time off, so what happens? Am I supposed to just work until I drop dead and then they'll get someone else to replace me? So I realized how the medical field doesn't value healthcare professionals. It treats healthcare professionals as if they are supernatural. You work 24-hour calls during the week, 36-hour calls during weekends. It's ridiculous. And I thought, this is not the kind of life that I want. I want to be able to take time off when I need it. When I'm sick, I need to be able to say, I'm sick, I'm taking the day off, I'm taking the week off. Whereas with medicine, if you don't go to work, if you don't show up, you don't get paid. And I couldn't live like that. And that was for me a major turning point in my career path, where I thought, I'm not going to sacrifice my health and my well-being for the sake of a career.
And Nkateko, what is driving you today?
Wow, my passion for literature. When I was growing up, I wasn't seeing myself reflected in the stories that I was reading. I was seeing characters who didn't look like me, who didn't eat the food I eat. And I thought other young people should be able to see themselves in the characters of the books that they read. So for me, just a passion to write stories that reflect people's realities and to share stories that reflect other people's realities. And that's why with NSUKU, the kind of manuscripts that we publish are African stories, proudly South African stories. Well, we do have clients from outside of South Africa, but still within the African continent, because I'm passionate about telling African stories. And we are in partnership with the Gauteng Department of Education through their Young Writers Program, where we provide books to no-fee schools in Gauteng. So they've commissioned us to print the books, then we send the books to them, they then distribute those books to schools. So I've always been passionate about literature, and that's what keeps me going.
Now, Nkateko, let's talk about leadership. What does the future of leadership mean to you?
The future of leadership is connectivity, collaboration, co-working, because you see now we're no longer in the kind of environment where every business needs to have its own headquarters. We have co-working spaces where you can have 10 different companies all working within the same space.
Right.
So I feel that leadership now Whereas before it was all about everyone doing their own thing. Now we're moving towards collaboration. We're moving towards connecting with other people. Because I think we're in an era where everyone realizes that you can't do it by yourself. You need to be working with other people. So as a leader, I feel that you can do better when you collaborate with others. And I think that's the kind of future that we're moving towards, where the world is one big village. We collaborate with people from the other side of the world. And that is where the future is going. We don't think, okay, South Africa is a third world country and America's first world, so we need to wait for whatever they have to reach us later. We can collaborate with them now. The future is right now.
And what have you learned from your own journey that you consider most important for building future leaders?
It's important to diversify. It's important to have a very wide skill set. It's important to teach yourself a little bit about everything. We're not in the kind of world now where you can just know enough about one subject and survive. You need to know enough about everything, because the kind of future that we're moving towards requires you to know a lot. So I would say diversify, learn as much as you can. There are so many ways that you can learn. It's not all about going to university. Even when you're studying a specific thing in university, you can learn other things. There are so many free courses on the internet. So I would say diversify and educate yourself. And education isn't necessarily school. You know, there's the whole world is open for you to educate yourself. So I would say diversify and teach yourself as much as you can about everything.
And tell us, what would you say are the key technologies that will be driving the leadership of the future?
Biotechnology, nanotechnology, robotics, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, because now we're moving towards the fourth industrial revolution, and we need to be aware of the fact that things are changing, and they're changing at a very, very high speed. So it's not like previous industrial revolutions. Okay, the first one was water and steam. The second one was electric power. The third was information technology and electronics. And the fourth industrial revolution seems to be a continuation of the third, but it's actually something new because of how quickly it's happening, because of how quickly the world is changing. So everything that you could ever imagine is now possible in the fourth industrial revolution. So yeah, I would say that those are the technologies that are going to move us forward. And now we're in an era where the lines are being blurred between different technologies. The cyber-physical space, so many things are no longer what they used to be. And you need to understand that we're in the fourth industrial revolution in order to function in the world that we're in and the future that we're going towards. So yes, definitely biotechnology, nanotechnology.
And tell us, when it comes to social media, how do you suggest future leaders should go about using social media to build their own brand?
Social media is important because that's where you get your name out there. And that's where you have a platform to share your truth, to share your story. And it's also important when you're building a business, because nowadays when people find out you have a business, they go and check out your social media page to see what people are saying about your company. And other businesses are now, big companies are aware of the impact that social media has, and also how they communicate on their social media platforms. So I would say that social media is important because if, like I was saying about the fourth industrial revolution, if we're looking at the Internet of Things, meaning that inanimate objects will have connectivity between each other. So you would be able to use your laptop to control this table, to control the chair, make it move to the other side of the room, and so on. In the era that we're moving towards, everything is going to be digitalized. So I think if you understand that, then you understand how social media can benefit you, because then you'll be able to control certain things from your social media profile. Like when you're logging into a certain site, then it asks you whether you want to log in via your email or via your Facebook page or via your Twitter page. So if you don't have those accounts, then it's very difficult for you if you're only using your email. So social media is huge. You can do so many things. You can have a live video where anyone in the world can see you. So I think it's really, really important. And also now it's bridging the gap between first world and third world countries. I was in the States recently for the Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders, and I saw that we have so many things where so many aspects of our lives that are behind and where the United States is ahead of us. But we have the internet and we see what they have. Whereas before, you weren't really aware. You'd need to travel there to fully understand what they have and what we don't have that they have. But now, through the internet, you can have that awareness, because going there, I already knew about the subway. I already knew about different things. So I'd say social media makes the world a lot smaller, because you get to see how other people on the other side of the world are doing, and you're able to communicate with them in real time.
And tell us, Nkateko, as a mentor to future leaders, can you tell us a success story where you mentored somebody and that person took your advice to heart?
Wow. Actually, very recently, with the applications for the 2019 Mandela Washington Fellowship being open, I mentored quite a few people and helped them by reviewing their applications, and it's been an amazing experience, from seeing how their applications looked when they first approached me and seeing how the gradual change as I spoke with them and also showed them how to answer certain questions or what the reviewers would be looking for. So I would say a friend of mine, Griffiths, so he's applying for the Mandela Washington Fellowship, and he's a success story in the sense that he almost didn't apply. And then he reached out to me and he said, okay, I'm thinking of applying for the Mandela Washington Fellowship. And I said, okay, well, it's the last day. And he literally, in the last few hours, filled in the answers to the application, and I helped him by reviewing them, and he sent his submission through. For me, helping another person to help themselves, that for me is the biggest impact that I can make. I don't ever want to make another person feel like they need me in order to succeed, because then you take me out of the equation and then they're not successful. So I want to empower people with the tools that they can use. And right now, when you mention mentorship, I'm thinking about an organization where I am one of the mentors. It's called the Mentee, and it's run by a fellow Mandela Washington fellow named Ogaufi Bampane. So under that program, I'm one of the mentors, and I have mentees that I work with. And those are high school students that I will be helping. I'm still yet to meet my mentees, but I'm very excited about this program. I'm very excited to meet them and to teach them what I know and to empower them with the knowledge that they can use in their own careers.
And tell us, Nkateko, who are the role models of leadership that you would suggest future leaders should study?
I feel that this is an industry-specific question. I feel that whatever your industry is, then you can find people who are successful and who are doing well there. And yesterday I was actually speaking at the valediction of my previous high school, the Glen High School. And I was telling the young people, find a mentor and ask them difficult questions. Because we look at people and we only see the rosy side. We only see the success story. And we never ask them, so what is it like when it's hard? What is it like when the money isn't coming in and the kids are sick and the roof has just caved in? So what is it like on the difficult days? Because you look at someone's journey and you're only seeing the highlights. And that's one of the dangers of social media. We only show the highlights. We only show the good. So I'll only share that, oh, I'm at an interview and everything's going well, but then you don't show the side where your car broke down and there's no money in your account. So I really feel that whatever your industry is, look for people who you think are doing well and ask them difficult questions. Some people won't be transparent, but there are those who will tell you the real story and what's really going on. And right now, with how the world is looking, someone that I admire is Sandiso Sibisi. So she is a young leader in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics sphere. And she runs an organization that deals with getting women into STEM, into technology careers and so on. So I feel that young people who are interested in pursuing a specific thing should look for 1, 2, 3, maybe even 5 people who are doing what they want to do. Reach out to them, look for their email addresses, reach out and ask them, can I ask you a few questions? Because I'm thinking about going into this career. Because you don't want to go into something and then you face difficulties and then you feel like you're a failure, whereas those are the difficulties that actually come with the job. And those are some of the things I realized in medicine when it was already too late, that these are kind of some of the challenges. You are going to get sick, and you are going to work long hours, and you're not going to see your family. And you need to know that beforehand. You don't want to get into it thinking it's all glamour and white coats and stethoscopes and looks like an episode of Grey's Anatomy, whereas the reality is not that at all. So find people and ask them those really tough questions.
Now, Nkateko, how can our listeners connect with you and where should they follow you?
Well, they can follow me on Facebook. I'm Nkateko Masinga on Facebook, on Twitter @Nkati_M. Instagram, Nkateko_Masinga, LinkedIn, Nkateko Masinga. Yeah, so that's where they can find me.
And last but not least, is there one thing that you would really like to convey to future leaders that they should embrace?
Embrace the fact that the world is changing. And that's a very exciting thing. We talk about flying cars, right? But then we don't think about what that would mean. So flying cars would mean no traffic on the roads. So I would encourage people to embrace the change because there are certain challenges that we face now that can be eliminated if we think about how technology can help us moving forward and how the fourth industrial revolution can help us moving forward. I think we're very afraid of change. So I would say embrace change and also be part of the change. So be the kind of young leader who is involved, who's involved. If we are moving into a future, I run a publishing company, and if we're moving into a future where everything is going to be digitalized, we need to understand that maybe books will not be on paper anymore, that every form of literature will now be in digital format. So as the owner of a publishing company, if I'm going to embrace change, then I need to be aware of the fact that maybe we need to do away with books that are written on paper because of what it's doing to the environment, because of how many trees need to be cut down to make the paper that we're printing these books on. So we need to understand that in order to reverse some of the changes that we have made to our environment in order to make the world what it is, we need to embrace change.
Well, Nkateko, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for inspiring so many other people, especially so many other young leaders.